Good evening. I'm Janet Chandler with the Cullman Tribune, and I'm here to read you a bedtime story tonight. I'm going to be reading from My Little Treasury, Fairy Tales. Tonight I'm going to read Thumbelina. Once there was a woman who lived alone in a tiny cottage. Though she had a happy life, she longed for a child. One day, as she worked in her yard, an old peddler woman came to her gate. "I have something that can help you," the peddler woman told her kindly. "Take these seeds and plant them in your garden," the woman continued. "In no time, you will find your heart's desire." The woman thanked the peddler and planted the seeds. As soon as she watered them, a tulip sprouted up and instantly opened. Sitting in the flower was a beautiful little girl. The woman decided to call her Thumbelina, and she loved and cared for her as her very own child. One day, while Thumbelina played in the garden, her sweet singing attracted an ugly toad who happened to be hopping by. "I would like to make her my wife," he thought to himself. So he took Thumbelina and brought her to his lily pad. Thumbelina was trapped, and she began sobbing. Her tears brought curious fish to the surface. They took pity on the poor girl, nibbled through the lily pad stem, and helped her float safely to shore. Thumbelina thanked the fish for their help and set off walking as far as her legs could carry her, but she did not know where to find her mother's garden. As night fell, she wove a tiny hammock from blades of grass and slept. The next day, Thumbelina resumed her search for her mother. Thumbelina's search went on through the fall, and soon winter brought a bitter cold chill to the air. It was then that Thumbelina spotted a small door in the trunk of a tree. The door opened a crack, and a little field mouse peered out. When the mouse saw the lovely girl on her doorstep, she invited her in to warm herself by the fire. The mouse and Thumbelina became fast friends, and Thumbelina, accepting the mouse's invitation to stay the winter, helped to gather food and supplies. One day, a strange sound brought the field mouse and Thumbelina to the window. There they saw a sparrow with an injured wing. He had been traveling south for the winter, but now he could no longer fly. The sparrow knew he could not survive the cold winter outside. The hospitable field mouse welcomed the sparrow into her home. Thumbelina helped him into the burrow and tried to make him as comfortable as possible. The sparrow was surprised to find such a tiny person living with a field mouse. "Are you a fairy princess?" he asked. "What is a fairy?" she asked. "Someday, when my wing is better, I will show you," answered the sparrow. Thinking back to her mother's garden, Thumbelina asked if he was one of the birds that had taught her to sing. "That was not me," said the sparrow, "but it could have been one of my brothers or sisters." Thumbelina and the sparrow would sing for their friend every day. When spring finally arrived, the sparrow's wing had healed. He offered to carry Thumbelina to her mother's cottage. They both said their goodbyes to the field mouse and went on their way. "I have a surprise for you, Thumbelina," said the sparrow as he landed on a flower. "I have brought you to the land where the fairies live." Just then, a lovely white flower opened to reveal a perfect little boy the same size as Thumbelina. He had a pair of wings, and he wore a tiny crown. He was the prince of the fairies. The prince asked Thumbelina to be his bride. He placed a golden crown on her head. Then two smaller fairies fastened a pair of delicate wings onto her back. "I will marry you," she answered happily, "but you and the fairies must come live with me in my mother's garden. I will never be happy anywhere else." The prince agreed, and when they arrived, the woman was overjoyed to see her dear daughter again. She was especially tickled to have the fairies live with her. Every summer, the sparrow would visit Thumbelina's garden, where she and her friends lived happily ever after. The end. Good night and sweet dreams.